All right, so a few additional things stood out to me after our meeting on Thursday. When I went back to my classroom and looked around, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to mention this and I forgot to mention that. So if you go on to my portfolio, swiderski.weebly.com, and you scroll down to a look at the classroom, and if you scroll down, I've put some new pictures up regarding Common Core standards in the classroom. I use a variety of tools in the classroom to help guide learning. For me, a lot of things stood out to me when I got back into the classroom. Standards and targets are all on the notes and the tests for students. There are numerous places that students reflect on their targets. So down here, you'll see some assessments. At the top of every test, I have an area for them to rank themselves, whether it's what do you think you got on this target? And then I'll usually put their grade next to that score for them. When it says I can identify rational numbers on the number line, I try and keep it so that there is one target per page or per so many pages so that students know what they're being assessed on. So students are constantly reflecting on that. As you go down a little bit further, there's always the targets at the top. Here they are comparing and ordering decimals and fractions. Down below, here was another area where they were doing rational numbers and reflections in the coordinate plane. I saw that that was an 8th grade standard as well with reflections and rotations. So here they could rank themselves on I agree, I somewhat agree, I disagree. And you can see that this student marked some X's somewhat in the somewhat agree area, a few disagrees, but I enjoy having students reflect on that. Down below, I have this lovely door. This is on my way out. There's another door right here that enters the hallway. It's how students come in and out. So this door is really fun. You can see it says 4321. And I talked to the kiddos about what those numbers mean with their grade. And we talk about standards-based grading at the beginning of the year and how they always have a chance to improve. It did say rank yourself, but it's an inside joke. My students and I are always laughing about yourself. So sometimes when I'm giving that exit slip, whether it's a post-it note or sometimes I'll give out index cards, there will be a question or two on the front board, and then as students exit the room, I have them drop the post-it note or the exit slip into each file folder where they think they're at. This way I know students who are at a 1 or a 2 or down here, I need to find them during lunch to do some reteaching and just check in with them. This is also helpful for me to know what students understand or don't understand to guide lessons for the next day. So this is a really easy way that I allow my students to check where they're at and to show me their understanding on concepts from a lesson. Down below here is the wall of champs. I use this all the time when we are discussing standards and why we grade the way we're at. I do not give zeros. The only time I give zeros in the grade book is if something is not turned into me. That's just a placeholder. If students don't turn something in, I go out and find them for that, but that's a good way for parents to know if their student is missing something for me. Typically, I don't put zeros in. I change them to 50%. I don't believe in zero. That has a huge negative input on the student's grade. So I make sure that I give that 50%. But this just says down here that I have not completed the target. So usually most of my students fall somewhere between, 4, 3. I've used a 5-point scale in my classroom before because that translates easier to the 100% is at A, 90 to 100 is A, B is 80 to 90, 70. The 5-point scale really, really transfers easily with that. I know that some districts, the district next to me down in Bloomington, they have changed their grade book to be a 4-point scale, but the 5-point scale turns out to work a little bit easier because my district still does use the A, B, C, D model. So I have that there, but I am comfortable with the 4-point scale as well. I feel like that would be very beneficial in a district where students are at grade level. So as I scroll down farther, I have targets on the board at all times so students can see what they're doing. In addition, this is something that I started implementing the past 3 years. I have these folders that the students make and bins that the students are completing coloring when there's free time. And in these folders, students have a sheet that looks like this for each of their quarters, and we always update our targets. So this was from, I believe, quarter 1. I entered the targets for the students. They had to put their grade in. This student did not understand that they weren't supposed to put they're supposed to put numbers in and not letters in. They were just looking at the grade in the grade book. And then under your comments, these are things that they need to work on. And so my ultimate goal for this is just from the first quarter, is that students can learn where to find their targets and write the target down. I want them to write their grade as a number 4, 3, 2, 1. And then their comments as to, I need to do better on finding the prime factorization. I know that I saw that a lot on another target sheet from another quarter. This was just something I took a quick picture of though on Friday before I left for spring break. We do this after every assessment. In the past, what I have done in some classes is we have done test corrections, and then based on their test corrections and if they have all their homework done, they can redo a test. This year, we're not doing the test corrections because I have a challenging bunch, but I know that best practice would definitely be to do that to guide learning for the students. Students keep their portfolios here at all times. They can keep notes, study guides, extra worksheets, any of that stuff in there, and this works out really, really well for parent-teacher conferences. I've done student-led conferences before. I've done conferences with just teachers that are teacher-led, but regardless, these folders are great because students can go through their works with their parents and guardian, down below here, again, another test with their scores. I have made it so that the target's up top with different questions and different leveled questions, and then I put the questions next to it so students know what target that is on. Again, I like to make sure, kind of like up here though, that my assessments are made so that students know that, hey, everything in this box goes along with this target. So those were a few things that when I went back to the classroom, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to mention this, I forgot to mention that. I know Common Core standards, there's a lot going along with those standards. Mathematical practices are also really important. I've attended a PD on those as well for students to understand how to make corrections and how to critique others in a respectful way. I know that patterns and graphs are also very important in math, especially as you get a little bit further down the line. Reason abstractly and attending to precision and looking for regularity and repeated reasoning is also really important in math. When I go and I plan a lesson, I try to make sure that I'm implementing different strategies, different mathematical practices to help all students be successful in the classroom. So I hope moving forward as we're looking at some of this stuff, you have a clearer vision of what my classroom looks like and what some of the things in my classroom mean to me and the students when it comes to Common Core standards.